Was it supernatural powers, nefarious actors, an iceberg, or perhaps something else that sunk the Titanic? This is the true story about how the unsinkable sunk. On April 14, 1912, at 11:40 p.m., the RMS Titanic experienced a catastrophic event that ultimately led to its demise. 3 hours later, by 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, the colossal ship, once deemed unsinkable, had completely vanished beneath the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The tragedy claimed the lives of more than 1,500 individuals, representing over 2/3 of all the passengers and crew on board. The exact cause of this horrific disaster, resulting in such a staggering loss of life, remains a subject of inquiry and speculation. While the prevailing narrative has long attributed the sinking of the Titanic to a collision with an iceberg, recent scientific discoveries challenge this theory. In this video, we delve into the truth behind the Titanic's demise, revealing insights that have remained buried for over a century. Join us as we uncover the facts. At a staggering 882 feet 9 inches long, 92 feet wide, and 175 feet tall, with a usable volume of 46,000 tons, the Titanic appeared virtually indestructible, its vast expanse of decks and passages stretched for miles, so expansive that even the ship's officers required over 2 weeks to fully navigate its labyrinthine layout. The Titanic boasted 4 colossal smokestacks, each weighing 60 tons and towering 81.5 feet above the deck. Positioned at a 30-degree angle for visual impact, these smokestacks prevented passengers from being showered in soot from the 100 tons of debris expelled daily. The construction of the Titanic came with an astronomical price tag of $7.5 million, equivalent to approximately $240 million in today's currency when adjusted for inflation. Surprisingly, this cost was lower than the budget of the 1997 film Titanic, which totaled $200 million at the time, equivalent to about $380 million in today's terms. At the Harland and Wolff shipyard, a workforce of 3,000 men undertook the monumental task of constructing the Titanic. Despite their immense labor, working 6 days a week from 6 in the morning, it took a staggering 26 months to complete the ship. The work was grueling and perilous, akin to laboring at the height of a 20-story building without any safety ropes. However, these workers were driven by the need to provide for their families. The builders received a wage of £2 a week, which was considered competitive for the time. Unfortunately, the construction process was not without tragedy, as 8 individuals lost their lives and 246 others were injured. Despite the considerable effort, resources, and skill invested in its creation, it is difficult to comprehend how such a sophisticated and massive vessel could meet its demise due to the impact of a single iceberg. Journalist Sonam Maloney, who has dedicated over 30 years to studying the Titanic's fate, has unearthed compelling evidence suggesting that the original cause of the catastrophe was not ice, but fire. Maloney made this discovery upon noticing a massive 30-foot-long black spot on the hull of the ship, visible in a previously unpublished photograph taken before Titanic's departure. This photograph was part of an album containing images documenting the construction of the ship and the preparations for its maiden and final voyage. Maloney's meticulous examination of these photos has brought to light crucial details that challenge the long-standing narrative surrounding the Titanic's demise. The fire on board the Titanic is believed to have been burning for approximately 3 weeks at an extremely high temperature before it was noticed. Experts assert that under such conditions, the metal would have been significantly weakened, reducing its strength by as much as 75%. Consequently, when the iceberg collided with the ship, the compromised metal made it much easier for the iceberg to tear a hole in the side of the Titanic. Without the fire, this catastrophic breach may have been nearly impossible. The management of the Titanic project was aware of the fire on board and the risks associated with setting sail on the fateful voyage. However, acknowledging the fire and postponing the voyage would have led to bankruptcy for the ship's owners. Compounding the issue, a nationwide coal miners' strike at the time meant there was a shortage of coal to sustain the Titanic's journey. Despite these challenges, the tickets for the voyage had already been sold out and other ships had been cancelled, as passengers clamored to be among the first to sail on the largest ship in the world. Consequently, the owners of the Titanic procured all the available coal they could find, and the notion of cancelling the trip seemed inconceivable. To conceal the truth about the fire on board, the Titanic was turned in such a way that the marks from the fire faced toward the sea, strategically ensuring that the passengers couldn't see the evidence of the fire as they boarded the ship. Despite the hidden danger lurking beneath the surface, the journey began as planned. The interior of the Titanic was modeled after the opulent Ritz Hotel in London. The grand staircase spanned 7 out of the 10 decks on the ship, adorned with paintings, bronze cherubs, and oak paneling. First-class passengers enjoyed lavish amenities, including a heated swimming pool, Turkish bath, gym, squash court, and beauty salon. Stylists were available to assist ladies with their preparations for dinner, and an onboard newspaper called the Atlantic Daily Bulletin kept passengers informed. Even the pets of first-class passengers were catered to, with facilities for feeding, walking, and training them during the voyage. Meals for first-class passengers were extravagant affairs, featuring 13 courses accompanied by fine wines lasting about 5 hours. Despite the abundance of luxuries on board, one critical item was notably absent: binoculars. This oversight is significant because having binoculars could have potentially saved the Titanic from disaster. In those times, without sonar systems to detect threats ahead of a liner, special personnel relied on binoculars to keep watch for obstacles. However, the binoculars on the Titanic had been locked away in a special compartment, with the only person holding the key being Second Officer David Blair. Unfortunately, Blair was replaced at the last minute and forgot to hand over the key to his replacement before leaving the ship in a hurry. This oversight was only discovered 3 days later, when the ship was already at sea. If the crew had access to the binoculars, they might have noticed the iceberg earlier, allowing just enough time to avoid the fatal crash. The tragic collision also may have been avoided if the Titanic hadn't been exceeding the speed limit. Falling behind schedule was deemed unacceptable, as it could tarnish the ship's reputation, prompting it to travel at a speed much higher than it was designed for. Another critical oversight involved the inadequate number of lifeboats. While the ship required about 60 lifeboats to accommodate all passengers, the decision was made to equip it with only 20, primarily for cosmetic reasons. This meant that the available lifeboats could seat only 1/3 of the ship's occupants. Shockingly, this insufficient amount of lifeboats was technically legal under the laws of that time, which based the number of boats on a ship's tonnage rather than the number of passengers. Additionally, despite standard practices on ocean liners, lifeboat drills were never conducted on the Titanic. Captain Edward John Smith cancelled the scheduled drill on the morning of the fateful day, despite warnings from other ships about ice in the vicinity. Consequently, it took the crew over half an hour to launch the lifeboats instead of the standard 10 minutes, further exacerbating the disaster. Some individuals also fault Captain Smith for allowing the first batch of lifeboats to depart partially empty. The initial boat, designed to accommodate 65 passengers, only carried 27. Why weren't they filled to capacity from the start? Many passengers were hesitant to abandon the ship, unaware of the imminent danger they faced. Later on, researchers discovered that Captain Smith had failed his first navigation exam. While he eventually passed, some speculate that his incompetence could have contributed to the fateful string of events. As the Titanic was sinking, the crew sent out several distress signals. However, a nearby ship, the Californian, ignored the emergency flare shot into the sky. The captain of the Californian later lost his job after this revelation, but modern researchers have alleged his innocence. The reason nobody noticed the signals from the Titanic could be due to the phenomenon of light refraction. When layers of cold air are positioned below layers of warmer air, it causes thermal inversion, leading to abnormal light refraction. This phenomenon creates mirages, which had been recorded by several other ships sailing in that area. Historians are also convinced that light refraction that night could be the reason why the lookouts missed the iceberg completely. The tragedy of the Titanic remains a haunting and deeply studied event in history. The interplay of factors, whether it was fire or ice, the decisions made by the crew, and the circumstances surrounding the disaster all contribute to the complex narrative of what happened that fateful night. While each theory has its merits and evidence to support it, the truth may never be fully unraveled. What is clear is the immense loss of life and the lessons learned from this catastrophe. In recent times, other conspiracy theories have arisen, such as insurance fraud, ship swapping, and even haunted cursed mummies. Although lacking any credible evidence, these theories suggest deliberate sabotage and supernatural powers at play. Which theories do you believe hold the most water, pun intended? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more vivid true stories like this.